Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
When you're a teen, it can feel like everyone else is calling the shots. Parents, teachers, coaches, they all have something to say about what you do. But your period? That should be 100% in your control. That's why Knix, the #1 leak-proof underwear company in North America, created KT for Teens, period products that put you in charge. KT leak-proof underwear, swimwear, and activewear give you the power to do what you want, when you want, without your period making decisions for you. Heavy flow during soccer practice? You decide to keep playing. Surprise period during a sleepover? You decide to keep the party going. Hitting the beach or pool? You decide when to jump in. No more sitting out, going home early, or changing your plans just because of your period. Because the one thing you should absolutely have power over is your own body. Ready to take back control? Visit NixTeen.com now and get 15% off your first purchase with promo code CONTROL. That's KNIXTeen.com, promo code CONTROL.
Welcome to the Culture Cast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I'm joined by my good friend, co-host on the Scary Stories We Tell podcast, Jess Byard.
Yes, it is I. I feel like the last time we did this, I said, it's been so long.
And boy, hasn't it. I don't even...
And here we are again.
What was the last thing we talked about on the Culture Cast together?
Oh, the Culture Cast?
Yeah, well, the other ones, yeah. The other ones don't count at the moment. It was sometime in September.
Yeah, what was that theme?
This is the first horror movie podcast that you've done with me in
this
October.
Month? Well, yes.
It's still technically October on this podcast.
Sure. But no, what was the theme of September?
The theme for September, boy, you've never seen September. So Gina Davis
That's right.
movies.
Oh, yeah, it was that horrible Gina Davis movie that was super forgettable.
There were a couple.
It was the really sappy romantic one.
Oh, Excellent Tourist. No, actually, the last thing that you were on was when we talked Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was like...
because I have seen that one.
End of September. To be fair, there was only like 2 movies I hadn't seen in September, and one of them was bad. So the other one was not. But we're not here to talk about movies we've never seen. We're here to round out Horrortober Down Under, a film month that Jess programmed by picking some Australian horror movies. Though I will contend that Wake and Fright is not a horror movie.
Well,
it's like horror adjacent. It was a good movie. There's no question
if you were
that.
there and Donald Pleasance was there with you, would you be horrified?
No, but that's
I would be horrified.
On the podcast, I said I would probably like to have this experience if I knew that I could get away with it like they did. I mean, go native once.
I don't know what happened there, though, with Donald Pleasance and him.
I mean, they didn't bang because he made it clear that they weren't going to. Maybe they did bang. I mean, look, Donald Pleasance, if it's cold enough, even if it's not cold enough, Donald Pleasance, maybe not in that movie, but like Donald Pleasance, not a bad-looking dude. You know, maybe not as good-looking as the people in this movie. This is a horror movie.
It is. It's a horror movie that is not set in Australia.
No, but it's definitely not filmed in the United States. We're talking about 1981's dual monikered Strange Behavior, otherwise known as Dead Kids.
Strange Behavior. A movie of mystery, horror, and suspense.
Clear and unnatural picture begins to form in my mind. They're gonna strap me into some chair and poke me all in my gray cell.
Would you just wait a minute and listen to me? 2 sessions, 2 days, $100 a day.
Behavior is nothing more than the sum of the mechanical activities of our bodies.
I was just wondering, are you doing anything tonight?
Oh, he's dead. And the dead don't come back and take revenge. Somebody help me!
We've heard your views on our work in the past, Mr. Brady.
Save the crap for somebody else. You got a list of people in the program?
Now just relax, Pete. It'll be over in no time.
It started all over again. Let me go! Let me go! Pete, what's wrong?
I don't feel so.
Pete!
Mr. Brady, I see you found your way.
Pete, are you ready?
The choice is yours, Mr. Brady. Either give him the gun or shoot him. The choice is yours, Mr. Brady.
Oh, Jesus. What did you do to my kid? What did you do?
Strange Behavior.
I did get to speak with Dan Shor. You will know Dan Shor as Pete Brady, the main character of Dead Kids, or you might also know him as Billy the Kid in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So I actually got a chance to speak with him for quite a while. So about halfway through the podcast, we'll play that interview, and you'll hear all about working on the movie, working with Michael Murphy, working with Billy Condon. Anything you want to know about Dead Kids' Strange Behavior, Dan should be able to answer those questions for you. But that is not right now. I am curious, Jess, before I ask you what you think of the film, why did you pick Strange Behavior for Horrortober Down Under?
So I picked this movie initially just because Australian horror movies are kind of all over the place, and sometimes you can get really it's a really hit or miss thing. If you accidentally pick one that's super depressing and gory, it's not going to be a fun time for everybody. So I had to kind of steer clear of some of those. But no, I picked Dead.
I mean, to be fair, though, some of the ones that you could have picked, we've already done them.
Well, maybe that's also
we did The Loved Ones.
Loved Ones,
that
great.
movie is brutal. Snowtown, also have done that one. Also brutal.
See,
I would say Snowtown.
Snowtown, I would never rewatch. I'm good on never seeing that movie again.
I don't see. Here's the thing. I don't know if I would, knowing what inspired Loved Ones, someone like Bob Berdella injecting people with syringes in their voice boxes, which is what happens in that film. If I didn't know about like the real world implications of what other people have had to endure, I probably would rewatch Loved Ones, but it was a little much, even for me.
Supertramp couldn't save it for you?
Nothing could save me from the fact that movie is just bleak as bleak can get.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, and that's kind of the thing with Australian horror movies. It's either they're super bleak or there's things like this, which there's a weird kind of there's several movies in this subgenre that all kind of involve like either psychic or experimentation on teenagers to make them just kind of like little robots. I don't know specifically why that was a thing for Australian horror movies, but it was an interesting thing in the 70s and 80s. But no, I picked this one because
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondersight comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed, lab-proven to work fast, and proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wonderside's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wonderside.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wonderside.com. Wonderside. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wonderside today.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Because honestly, I hadn't watched it in a long time, and it was one that just kind of like stuck out in my head as being this sort of just weird kind of dreamlike movie. And I wanted to revisit it, and so here we are.
So I am curious, rewatching it to talk about here on the Culture Cast, what did you think? Did it live up to the standards and hopes that you had put on it, repicking it to rewatch it?
No, this movie's kind of boring. Overall, like it didn't. There are some parts of it that I still like. There's the key parts that stuck out in my mind is like kind of like drew me to picking it again, or the things that kind of, you know, still stuck with me this time. And that's any scene in where there's the party scene where you have a bunch of teenagers dressed half-assed like they're going to like a real party and then just dancing ridiculously in the living room. And I do like the overall kind of atmosphere, and I do think they captured the Midwest feel really well. But overall, I don't know. I think that this movie could have been about 15 minutes shorter.
I think for me, as someone who'd never seen it before, mind you, coming into this completely fresh, the only thing I knew about it is had Dan Shor in it, who I loved, obviously, in Bill and Ted. It's written by Bill Condon, who, I mean, would go on to do any number of things that I'm not going to say are much more famous than Dead Kids, but, I mean, Gods and Monsters, Chicago, Dreamgirls, Kinsey, those movies are much more famous than this movie. Mm-hmm. Notice I didn't mention the quality, but and I know some people love Chicago, the musical, and I know you're one of them.
I was going to say some people on this podcast.
I know. I haven't seen it in a very long time.
In fairness, I haven't seen it in a long time either, and it might be a large part due to Catherine Zeta-Jones as to why I enjoy that movie. But
I get it.
I can't say that for sure. We'll have to rewatch it.
It definitely ain't because of Richard Gere, human sponge.
Razzle dazzle.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Richard Gere can't sing, but nope. Getting off topic completely, I knew nothing about this movie going into it, but sitting down and watching it, I see where you're coming from, and I don't disagree regarding the length of the film. I think what's weird about this movie is it's a movie that plays by its own rules, so much so almost in everything. Yeah. It has like fake out killers and multiple killers and killers that don't kill at all. And
killers you know immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And that's weird for film.
Would you say it is strange behavior?
I would say that it involves dead kids. What's strange about the movie is it takes two, I wouldn't say seemingly disparate subgenres inside of horror, because it's a mad scientist movie. Mm-hmm. And also like a slasher kind of. And like those are disparate, right? Would we agree that those are kind of disparate?
It was kind of made to be, like reading a bit about this movie. It was a sort of like answer, like an Australian answer to like a Halloween type, slasher movie. Then like kind of, and that's why we end up, being set in Illinois. Which I did enjoy when the guy walks down the steps in the very first scene. He's wearing a Nebraska Cornhuskers sweater.
Similarly to another movie I talked with Mike White about on the Projection Booth podcast, #cross-promo, The Frighteners, this film, meant to be set in the United States, similarly to The Frighteners. Both of these films are clearly set in New Zealand, like The Frighteners. And I talked with Dan about this. It clearly is not the United States. It is clearly Auckland, New Zealand. And there's no way you can make New Zealand look like the United States. There's just something about it. It doesn't look like the States.
No, it was too flat. I don't even know. It's not flat. I mean, Nebraska's all flat. And Illinois is pretty flat, too. I don't know. There is just something very just off about it that doesn't work. But I think that overall, like this, like just the general, like the people in it, though, I think they really did capture that Midwestern small town. Like I felt like it reminded me a lot of, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Yeah, it had that kind of feel to it, where it's like this out in this middle of kind of nowhere, feels a little weird.
Sure.
Because it's not like the kind of, geography that I'm personally used to, being in Ohio.
But again, I mean, to both of our points, clearly not the States, clearly New Zealand. That doesn't factor into my enjoyment of the film, but I will tell you that it does definitely factor into how the film looks, because it has a unique look to it that only someone filming a film not in the United States could get. Because I hate to break it to everyone, and I don't know how you feel about this, but at least for me personally, a lot of the slasher films of the 80s look very samey. And that is an intent because they are cheap. And they are made cheap. And if you make something cheap, you don't get to go and spend all the money finding cool places to shoot. You have to make do with what you can find. And look at something like Friday the 13th. Camp Crystal Lake, yes, is a real place. It's not the name of it. But that place exists because they gave them a good deal on filming.
Yep.
It was off-season, and they're like, yeah, you want to pay us to use this off-season summer camp?
Here you go.
Yeah.
And then, we made a whole bunch of fucking money.
Exactly. It's not like this where it's like, we're going to film in Australia, or we're going to film in New Zealand, which is expensive to do, to fly a bunch of Americans over. But, hey, they make it work in this movie, and I understand your kind of criticism about the film being a little boring. I would agree this film does tend to drag, but at the same time, this film is a really weird anomaly because it's kind of its own thing, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it still definitely holds that because it's, of all of the movies that were watched in October and in general, the kind of Australian horror movies that we were talking about, like The Loved Ones or Snowtown Murders, or there's one that came out more recently, but it's about another sort of really grotesque, person keeps other person locked in their house and does horrible things to them type.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Movie.
I can skip that one.
Right. Exactly.
As someone who's been locked in their house essentially for the last 8 months, I don't need to see movies about people locked inside their houses.
Right. And they typically tend to be that more visceral type of movie, but this one fits,
Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wonderside's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wonderside.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wonderside.com. Wonderside. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and I, we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Dev Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
In its own kind of little Australia, it's not even Australian. It's like a triple country feature, right? It's US, New Zealand, Australia. I think that they like kind of tried to market it more of like a US thing to appeal more to like the horror market there.
Well, they attempted to make New Zealand look like the United States, so.
Right.
I mean, I see that as a pretty big indicator of intent regarding who it's for, right? If you're making a film for New Zealand audiences, don't make it Illinois. Just be like, oh, this is Auckland, whatever.
You could literally say it's any other place in the United States, and they're like, yeah, sure. Hell, Wes Craven said Ohio, and there were like straight up palm trees in Nightmare on Elm Street. So,
but it's more believable setting wise than this film is. Like, without the palm trees, if they had never shown the palm trees in Nightmare on Elm Street, I think I would have believed it.
It's okay. No, it is way too fucking sunny. At no point in Ohio is it that sunny that many days in a row.
I was waiting for you to take me to task about the scene where they're walking over the bridge.
Oh, that was
with
my
those,
next
like,
point.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as I said it, I was like, oh boy, maybe not. Like
the first things that popped into my head were that and like them standing in the graveyard. And I'm like, yeah, if it was a graveyard in Ohio, it would be overcast, raining. That's not Ohio.
To be fair, though, it still looks more like the United States than this film does.
I guess. I don't know. I feel like
it's not a problem. It's just.
I think for me, this movie, and I think a lot of it, the appeal to it probably when I first saw it, and it's definitely, I see it now, is there's a lot of like Lynch kind of feeling to this. It lives in that sort of weird, cerebral, dreamlike world where everybody's, where people literally are catatonic at points. And everything kind of moves pretty slowly and methodically. And I think that, that doesn't, it still feels American to me. I don't know. Like it has this weird tinge that has like, there's something slightly off. Yes, I definitely agree with that. But overall, I think it did a decent job capturing the Midwestern spirit.
Even if it didn't, I still love the ideas in this movie. I like this kind of idea that they kind of bring in. It doesn't feel like immediate. So the brunt of the film, I wouldn't say you have no idea what's going on, but you kind of don't.
No, not really.
Things are just kind of happening, and characters are speaking in things in roundabout ways. But the kind of basic plot of the film is Dan Shor plays Pete Brady. His father, Michael Murphy, who plays John Brady, and he's the sheriff of the town. And he, along with others, ran a doctor out of town who was experimenting on people. That doctor also happened to have Michael Murphy / Dan Shor, his wife / Pete Brady's mother, worked at the lab, and she died under mysterious circumstances. And so that's kind of the backstory. And then all of a sudden, kids start dying whose parents stood by Michael Murphy's character in running that doctor out of town. And the doctor supposedly died. Spoilers, he did.
Right.
But like, the funny thing is you literally don't find most of that out until 3/4 of the way into the film.
Yeah, you have no idea why his dad is so like hell-bent on figuring this stuff out until it's like, oh yeah, and my wife is dead. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, like we know the mom is dead from the intro scene because Dan Shor's character clearly, wakes up in the morning at the beginning of the film, doesn't have a mom, cooking breakfast. It's just him and his dad. So you automatically assume it's just the two of them in the house. But yeah, you have this character of Dr. Lasange played by Arthur Dignam, who only shows up in the last 5 minutes of the film, unless you count the creepy in prosthetics cameo.
Which I think you do.
Which you do, yeah. But you don't know it's him until later, is my point. But it is a film that seemingly just does its own thing and doesn't explain anything. And I do appreciate that. I mean, you have characters that are just killing other characters in a random Tor Johnson mask. And you know what? Other movies I might be like, what the fuck is going on here? But here I'm just kind of along for it because I think there's something infectious about the energy that comes through on screen. Because like I think everybody was clearly having a good time filming the film. Everybody is invested. Everybody's on board with the characters too. No one feels like they're phoning it in, which is a problem with these like kind of weirder horror movies. It's like, I'm not really committed to the idea. I'm just here for the paycheck and leave.
Everyone's real committed to their role in this, like especially his dad.
Oh yeah. Michael Murphy goes for it.
Well, and we also can't forget about Nurse Ratched.
Yeah, well. She's real good.
She's really good.
I mean, everybody's real good, right? I mean, even Dan Shor, who given a role that I wouldn't say could be nothing, but in a lot of other horror movies, the teenage son of what is one of the main characters might just kind of be used as collateral to kind of give the plot some more punch. He's pretty good. Mm-hmm. He's actually really good. I mean, again, being given teenage characters that you can actually that resonate with you and you can actually like identify with, especially in a quote slasher horror film, that's pretty rare in 81.
True. I mean, because at that point in time, everybody was pretty much just like churning these movies out. I mean, this would have been the beginning of it. So like they would have just been.
This is 1 year removed from Friday the 13th.
Right. So every like pretty much after Friday the 13th, like hit it big. I think probably just like, 10 slasher movies a day went into production from like 1980 to 1988.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, with like Scream Factory and Vinegar, I always call them Vinegar Strokes. Yeah, Vinegar Syndrome. Like you see them releasing all these things now, and it's like, holy shit, I didn't even know some of these movies existed.
Right, and most of them aren't worth a damn. Like most of them are pretty, If you like the genre, then definitely check them out. I have fun with them, but they're not typically. They are cast with just a bunch of no-name.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Nobodies who, not that saying that you need named actors, but they never really feel like professional actors, right? It always just kind of feels like a bunch of like teenagers. They were like, okay, come out to our movie. But in this, they actually feel like I'm watching somebody really get into a character fully. Like I understand, like this character has some emotional depth to them as opposed to, somebody in Friday the 13th Part 5.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is kind of the circling back like that for me is probably why I got so invested in the film, is because the characters are believable and the characters, you actually are given something to care about with the characters. Like you care about Dan Shor and Michael Murphy's relationship. You care about how Dan Shor is being treated by Fiona Lewis. You care about Dae Young and Michael Murphy's relationship. Like those are like legitimate relationships that you're actually given a reason to care about. And as someone who, like yourself, watches a lot of horror movies, that's kind of the joke for slashers, right? Is just a bunch of teenagers who give
just a bunch of dead meat walking around.
Exactly.
And honestly, I think that stereotype, though, like that trope, really only applies to like the later subset of that genre when everything was really just being like churn it out, churn it out, churn it out. And then it's kind of reinforced by the resurgence we saw of these sort of new wave slasher movies that came out in the early 2000s, that aren't necessarily one killer type things anymore. They're your Hostel type movies or even your remakes of Friday the 13th, where everybody in the cast is insufferable, right? Because the whole thing is like, you're here to just watch them die.
So we'll make it so that you want them to die.
Yeah, we don't. But for me, I'm here to watch some terrible shit happen because it's horror. But I still want to care about the characters because I want to feel that when it happens. I don't want to just be like, oh, well, okay, yep, they're dead, as I figured they would be, and here we go.
Well, and also do not come to this film expecting tons of body count and gore and everything else, because it's not here. But again, it's a very minimal movie. Yeah.
The score is minimal, which, hey, shout out to Tangerine Dream. Fucking love Tangerine Dream.
Oh, yeah. I agree 100%. This is also the first horror film to be shot in New Zealand.
Really?
So, yeah.
Before Peter Jackson?
Yeah, Peter Jackson would
later
have been the later
80s. Yeah, that's true. Wow.
Yeah, because Evil Dead would have to come out first.
Oh, that's true.
That's a knock at Peter Jackson. that's a little dig at Peter Jackson. I mean, if you've seen Brain Dead / Dead Alive, it's kind of just New Zealand Evil Dead.
But
nothing wrong with that.
Much more gross.
Yeah, but I like that about Dead Alive. I mean, the whole scene with the pudding is just... I'm a big fan of Meet the Feebles, so... Me too. Oh my God, Meet the Feebles great. I mean, look, and we're going to be talking about Peter Jackson next month in long form. long form. Which should give you an idea as to what we're talking about next month. We're going to be talking about the Lovely Bones.
We're either talking about his horror stuff or the Lovely Bones.
I will give those listening a hint. We will not be talking about the Hobbit films. Fuck that. But, with horror in New Zealand, I mean, it is pretty much synonymous with Peter Jackson. Which is a shame because, I mean, look, for me, this film is another one of these films that it's like, why did it take me so long to see this?
Right.
Because this is right in my wheelhouse of weirder, off the beaten path horror films of the 80s. Like I would put this in the similar category, talking about off the beaten path, but still has a lot of really well-known people involved. Something like Tourist Trap or Buried Alive.
I can see that.
You know what I mean?
I do love Tourist Trap. Yeah, they both exist in these kind of weird little Twilight Zone universes.
Where it's where
there's some sort of reality, but something is amiss.
Yeah. And they never hit it, quote, super mainstream, but the people who love them understand why they love them, and they don't love them ironically. The people who love this movie, I mean, the people who like the kind of stuff that gets released on Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow.
Yeah.
Those people are motivated to buy those movies because they love them.
Super fans.
Yeah. And this movie has... If when you listen to Dan, he'll tell you about going and watching a screening with the people who love this movie. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. I get it. It's its own fucking thing.
I would like to see this movie with a group of people that are really into it. Because I think that that's also another, for me, this was a repeat viewing. And I think that watching it on a second time where I already knew kind of what was going on kind of takes away from it. From the first time I watched it where I was what the fuck? I'm just trying to figure it out and take it in. I think if I watched it with more people, I think it would be one of those experiences where it's okay, I appreciate this movie more when I'm watching it with other people, because it does have a lot to it, and it would be interesting to watch what people kind of glom onto.
Well, like you mentioned, one of my favorite things, I think my probably favorite thing in this movie, other than the finale, which we will talk about, it's butt fucking insane. It's insane because, well, we'll get to it. The dance scene is amazing, right? You already mentioned it, but it's the best movie dance scene you've never seen before because, like you said, it's in someone's fucking house.
Right. I'm how big is
But
your
it does
house?
feel like a party,
which
is more than can be said for a
because it's supposed to be a high school party. But nobody dances at high school parties.
At least not like that, where it's choreographed dancing like they're at a wedding.
Right, just full on, yeah. We can all just slam into this fucking
Now we're in a square. Now we're in a 4x4 square of people. Let's start dancing, and we all know the choreography. The fuck. But that's okay, right? That's what makes this film charming. Is that scene juxtaposed against the scene of the guy being murdered by the guy in the Tor mask, the Tor Johnson mask, which I can't figure out why they used a Tor Johnson mask. Because it doesn't really work because it's super fucking weird. And it's weird in it's weird. Imagine if the Michael Myers mask was just the William Shatner mask before they, changed it. That's what we're looking at here with this Tor Johnson mask.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
It's pretty frightening, though.
Oh, I don't disagree.
If somebody was coming at me with just a William Shatner mask and a knife, I'd probably be pretty worried.
Well, no, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. But it's a funny choice that it's like a Tor Johnson.
Yes. I do like that it's specifically that. And I like that, this movie, it doesn't have a killer, right? It's not a slasher in that it has a Jason or a Freddy or a Michael. It's kind of everybody, almost, because the whole idea is that they're performing these experiments on kids for reasons that are never really explained.
Well, I thought the reason that they were performing it is they were turning kids into essentially Manchurian candidates, where they would go and kill these parents that were the reason Dr. Lessange was quote unquote murdered, but actually just kind of run into hiding. Because they say like you just mentioned, though, it's kind of Nightmare on Elm Street, right? Like the sins of the parents are being revisited on the children. Mm-hmm. Like you've never done that before. But this is this is before Friday the 3rd, or this is before Nightmare on Elm Street, though. So
yeah, 4 years before.
Yeah, so it is weird because the character of Dr. Lessange is not on screen until the end. His whole nefarious plan isn't explained until the end. And it also feels like a wildly inefficient way to do things. Why not just get Michael Murphy in the chair and murder him?
Right. Why not just get rid of it? Just immediately just be done with it. Well, and it's kind of this whole weird, I guess it's well, I can't just kill you because then that kind of takes away my fun.
That's what it feels like, right? Like anytime you have a movie like this with a plot like this where you're using other characters to enact your vengeance on the character that actually wronged you, it always feels like you're just doing it because you are a villain and that's what the villains do is make shit up, make up plans that are super flawed, and all the pieces have to fit together perfectly for this to work. And that is a common downfall of films like this, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, it doesn't really work very well, but
I guess in situations in movies like this, where it's one of those things where you just kind of have to be it's fine, I'll let it slide.
that you have to suspend disbelief a little bit.
And that's the thing, as long as the movie is interesting enough and trying to do something, you can let some things like that slide. It's when they become, when you're just churning it out and it's super repetitive and you're making these really obvious plot hole issues, then it becomes old hat.
But you do get a scene in this film where Fiona Lewis jams a hypodermic needle into Dan Shor's eye.
That is true. And that is pretty awesome.
On one of the posters for this film, that is the image that they use is the needle going into his eye. And look, eye gore, anything to do with people's eyes is gnarly as fuck. Like in the Fly when he starts fucking flicking them up, yeah.
Or in The Ring when they break their fingernails off in the well.
Don't remember that, but that's also because I haven't seen The Ring, not the first one at least. Oh God.
The remake?
No, I haven't seen. I haven't seen the remake.
Ringu?
No, I haven't seen the original, the original American remake, not the original Japanese film.
Original. Oh wow. The Ring remake scared the hell out of me when I was a kid.
I know, you've actually told me about it on the podcast multiple times. I take that back.
It lives in my brain.
I watched the first half of it, and it was okay.
I was 13.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm not discounting your opinion or your experiences. I'm more saying, like, now in 2020, with Rings having come out, last year?
Oh my God, yeah.
Like, at this point, it's like The Ring, the American version,
I rewatched
has been
The
parodied.
Ring I rewatched The Ring not that long ago, and I will stand behind some of the visual elements still being pretty creepy, but holy crap, the early 2000s, I don't know what the obsession was with fucking blue filter on every fucking light.
It's terrible.
Holy crap, everything's like a fluorescent.
Well, it looks like everybody's in the Harry Potter and, like, the Order of the Phoenix on.
Yeah.
Right? It's like blue. It's just blue. Blue is
like,
the
why
color.
Why do you just live in a lamp?
Yeah. It's fucking weird. Like, and it is... Yeah, that was the thing I noticed when I was watching The Ring. It's like a lot of gray and a lot of blue.
It's all blue, white, and gray, and that's it. And Naomi Watts is just like, wash the fuck out.
Like, have you been to Pacific Northwest, though? Because that is kind of
that's
the Pacific Northwest. Gray and blue and washed out. So, but yeah, no, there is that weird early 2000s thing with the blue, like the blue filter. It's like, as soon as the film starts, you know exactly when it was filmed. Like, early 2000s, okay. Let's take a break, and we'll play the interview with Dan Shor, where we talk a lot about the film, including the climax of the film. And when we come back, we will talk about the climax of the film and try to not make sense of it, but boy, have an interesting time talking about it, I'm sure. How did you initially get involved with, I guess we'll just call it strange behavior?
They called me. It was one of those things where I had shot a film called Wise Blood that John Huston directed. And it, opened the Cannes Film Festival. It opened the New York Film Festival. And I was this, I was a character actor that people wanted to work with. And they called my agent and said, we want Dan in our movie. It's called Dead Kids. And we want him to play the best friend. And Jimmy Olsen played the part. And they said, we want to play the best friend. I read the script and I said, I want to play the lead. And they met me and found out that I wasn't an inbreed. I wasn't a weird kid. I was, pretty normal looking kid from Nebraska, of all places. And no, it was Galesburg, Illinois. And I was this normal kid. And they said, okay, let's give him the lead. You want the lead? You got it. And I said, okay. And that's how I got it. I didn't audition, nothing. They wanted me because of Wise Blood. And I met with Michael Laughlin and with Billy Boy Condon. And I called him Billy Condon. William Condon is Billy Boy because he looked about 11 at the time when we did it. He was like maybe 22, my age. And he was a kid. And he was a brilliant kid, obviously. And that's how I got it.
So the film is obviously meant to, like you mentioned already, meant to be set in the United States.
Yes.
Similar to another film that I watched recently that was also filmed in New Zealand, but meant to be set in the United States, The Frighteners. It is very easy to tell that this film is not filmed in the United States. It is clearly filmed in New Zealand.
It's the light. It's just the light. The light is so magical.
As someone who lives in a quote-unquote Midwestern town, you can tell when you see Midwestern towns in the 80s in film, they have there's something American about those Midwestern towns in the 80s. And then you see Auckland, New Zealand, and it's like, this is clearly not the United States. But that adds a flavor to it that I really appreciate.
Yeah. And I remember Susanna Moore stylized the set as well. She did a lot of stylization, creating coffee shops with great neon signs and just sort of trying to make it a little bit surrealistic, just a little bit, heightening everything.
Sure. So what was it? Was that the first time you had been to New Zealand?
Yeah. Yes, I shot another movie with them called Mesmerized. 2 movies with Michael Laughlin and Billy Condon. 3. But the first one was Strange Behavior, which was Dead Kids, and then Mesmerized with Jodie Foster and John Lithgow. We did that later. The same people in New Zealand as well, in Auckland and the Bay of Islands. And that's when everyone fell in love with New Zealand. New Zealand is the greatest country on earth, the greatest country I've ever been to. And it's not a question. They're just better in every way. They're better people. They're smarter. They've handled COVID. They handled the United States. When we were down there shooting Mesmerized, they had an election and threw the United States military presence out of New Zealand because they were tired of being targeted by China.
Sure.
So get your nuclear fucking bombs out of our waters. We don't need you here. And I went, wow, I love these guys. Pretty awesome. And it's the physically most beautiful place I've ever been.
And I would say a lot of people know that thanks to Peter Jackson.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to watch films shot in New Zealand pre-Lord of the Rings and not go, I know that this isn't the United States, and I give a lot of that credit to Peter Jackson because the New Zealand landscape is so striking. It's, like you mentioned, it's almost impossible to see it as anywhere other than that's New Zealand.
Well, now, because we didn't know what New Zealand existed. We could say, well, that's not Illinois, but I don't know what that is. But because it's the light. Yeah. Really, it's magical light. And it really is. And there's no smog. And Auckland is a real city. You know, it's not like in Nebraska. It's a real city. There's 1 million people there. Yeah. And it's gorgeous. And, you know, there is an underbelly, but that underbelly is nothing compared to an American city's underbelly. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, sure.
If you've seen the movie Once Were Warriors, masterpiece, there's a whole level of poverty where you will have an impoverished family of 5, but they got a 4-bedroom house.
Sure.
I mean, that's not America.
Right.
It's not. And, you know, there's gangs, but those gangs only fight each other. And you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's really remarkable. And that has a lot to do with the indigenous cultures. And it's just beautiful because they're respected. They're whatever. And I just loved it there.
So tell me a little bit about what it was like to film and be on set and be around, you know, Michael Murphy and Louise Fletcher and the rest of the cast. I mean, what was that like being around them?
Fun. They were fun and funny. These are the guys, you know, they loved making movies. Both of them loved making movies, and none of us took this movie terribly seriously. We knew it was part of the horror genre, and we knew there was a lot of tongue-in-cheek going on. We all were playing archetypes and just going over the top. I remember Michael Murphy saying, okay, Dan, watch what a man does. And he'd run across the room with a rifle. And you go, Jesus Christ, Michael, that's so funny. And Louise Fletcher, such a delightful human being, so sweet. And I made a movie later. Both of them made a movie that I helped produce, and they both did cameos in it because they're just great people.
Well, and you can tell that you have pretty good chemistry on screen with Michael Murphy. I mean, obviously he plays your father until the kind of the massive twist, which full disclosure, I had not seen the film before until earlier this week. And so I watched it for the first time, obviously to prepare to speak with you. And the twist at the end of the film, I did not see coming at all. Yeah. The film does a good job of not playing its cards all, you know, like showing its hand completely, which a lot of, especially horror films, when it comes to a big kind of narrative changing twist, they tend to kind of foreshadow it way too much.
Right. And this is, look, I made the movie, and when I made it and it came out, I thought, it's okay. You know, oh God, I wish I were better. I saw this I think it was maybe 8 years ago in New York. There was a screening in Brooklyn, and these guys, it's some art house, packed. And they brought Michael Murphy and I out by limo, and we did a Q&A afterwards. I really liked it. I watched it. I said, wait a minute. This movie is much better than I remember, because I was, you know, less judgmental this time. And I went, well, that was pretty damn good. I really really liked it. It's really fun and playful, and it takes a genre that was really huge at the time and makes fun and has fun with it. You know, there's a twinkle in everybody's eye. There's a twinkle in the movie's eye, is what I remember. And I like it.
So tell me a little bit about the kind of the climax of the film, and we'll talk about the scene that's kind of been used on all the promotional material for the film, the needle in the eye scene.
Needle in the eye. The day it opened in New York, I'm walking down the street, the day or the week. Some guys go, yo, needle in the eye. That was my new name.
Oh, so you were being referred to as Needle in the Eye.
Yeah, yo, Needle in the Eye.
Oh, wow.
New York.
So,
it was great.
So actually, let's just talk about that scene. So tell me a little bit about, kind of what that scene was like. Obviously, you're strapped into a chair, which, that in and of itself could not have been comfortable. But tell me a little bit about kind of filming that scene and, kind of what was going through your head and what you were trying to kind of portray in that scene when you were tied to the chair.
Well, all I can remember is I know it's a retractable needle and it's going right into the corner of my eye, where you can push into the corner of the eye and the needle will retract. Fiona Lewis was so nervous, so scared, that she drank maybe a fifth of vodka. She drank so much in order to steady her hand that I was terrified. I didn't have to act. I acted like it was happening. That's all I remember, is being absolutely terrified, roll camera, and screaming, because she was so nervous. And it was, I think it might work. That's what I remember.
Well, and it does work. I mean, again, I think a lot of people are very sensitive about anything to do with their eyes, or kind of like their...
Oh, yeah.
So, that scene...
And
obviously,
she was more sensitive than I was. That's the thing, because she's such a great woman. She's so funny and so fun, and just was freaked out more than me, because it's her responsibility. My eyeball was her responsibility.
Sure.
And she did good, though her breath was very vodka.
Well, hey, if you're gonna do a scene like that, it's better to be pleasant,
inebriated.
Yeah, comfortably numb, maybe a little numb to what's going on.
Yeah.
So the climax of the film, and not to skip around, but the climax of the film, you are acting under kind of suggestion from others. You're essentially being told, kill your father, and then the twist comes where you end up killing Arthur Dignam. Your actual father. What was going through your head in that scene? What were you, obviously you can see on screen what your kind of performance is kind of leaning towards, but what were you trying to get across to the audience in that scene where you were portraying yourself kind of brainwashed?
I was doing what I was told to do. That's it. Nothing else. I'm hypnotized. I'm controlled, and I'm doing what I'm told to do. Kill my father. So I did. Who wouldn't?
Right.
The audience didn't know, and I didn't know that was my father. So I didn't know until then. Becomes intuitive with the injection, if I remember.
It's an interesting scene because, again, like I had mentioned before, the film doesn't really lead you on to the fact that the character of Lasange, who hasn't really been in the film, he's kind of been this kind of specter throughout the film that Michael Murphy keeps mentioning, and then obviously he goes and exhumes the body, and there is no body. It's really shocking to me how well the twist works, in spite of the fact that they never really foreshadow it at all.
Nothing. And this is Billy Condon, who was the writer, the kid. He was a kid at the time, and he knew about how to create that and how to do a good twist and how to make a fun horror movie in its time.
And it also does it kind of mashes up with some other kind of subgenres within horror that weren't too popular at the time. I mean, in the early 80s, you didn't really have a lot of mad scientist films either, which is what this film kind of incorporates into the mix. So do you have any particular memories that stand out for you on being on set during the film? Any kind of stories that you have from being on set?
Oh, God. I just remember it being stunningly beautiful. I remember adoring Day Young. I remember hanging out with Mark McClure and Jim Bolson. Fun people. Just everybody had a great time. Michael Murphy. I mean, these guys, And, Michael Laughlin set the tone. He brought a lot of friends, along on the set, and we became friends. And that's what he did. He was like a big, great host at a party. And I remember eating great meals in Auckland. Every night we would go out and dine. And I was a kid, but I just remember having such a great rapport with everybody. And we were all exploring this wonderful city and having fun shooting during the day. I just don't, it was an easy shoot. Michael loved making movies. Billy Condon loved making movies. And everybody on it thought that making movies is the most fun you can have. So, and it's an angst-free film. Do you know what I mean? There is no pressure on a silly horror movie. Nobody is trying to recreate. We're not doing, some existential nightmare. We're doing a fun, silly movie. And, no insult meant by silly movie. You know what I mean? Movies cost $1 million.
It's kind of a send-up, right? It's a little bit of a send-up.
It's playful.
Yeah.
It feels, every ounce of it feels playful. Even when it's scary, it's playfully scary. I just don't, and we had that wonderful silly dance number. I mean, that became a hit. It was really bizarre. We had this dance number in Strange Behavior that I remember, and I was dancing with the boys. I don't know how many gay people came up to me and said, Dan, that was brave of you to dance with boys. And I went, what? It's the 1980s. And I was going, because that was the time when there was that's pre-AIDS, but at that time, people were just beginning to liberate.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And apparently it was an important thing in the gay community, and I had no idea because I was just doing what we do. We're hippies, having fun, hippies hopping.
Well, and I was going to ask you about the dance scene because, again, when I sat down to watch this film, I wasn't I didn't really know what to expect. I knew that it was kind of a little tongue-in-cheek. It wasn't particularly quote-unquote scary, which, again, there's nothing wrong with that. Doing that mix of genres is hard. But then you get to that dance scene, and, you've got music by Pop Mechanics going on in the background, and the film feels like a teen kind of horror comedy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I don't see it as comedy. I just saw it as, I don't know, weird, bizarre.
It's its own thing. It really is.
Yeah, I think so too.
And that's a hard line to kind of tread when we're talking about horror, because the horror community can be rather unforgiving when it comes to the blending of comedy and kind of lightheartedness into horror, because you do have those hardliners in the community that are like, I won't touch anything with comedy in it. But you look at the way the community has responded to a film like Strange Behavior, and it really has grown. And we use this term cult film all the time.
Yeah.
It really has grown into that, and it has a massive cult following. And, I can only assume that, that kind of cult following has kind of been part of your career as you've gotten older, I'm assuming.
Absolutely not. Unfortunately, I wish it did. I wish it did. I don't know if anybody knows I'm still alive, to be quite honest. But no, we're in the middle of COVID. But
I was going to say, I do know you're alive unless I'm talking to a ghost, which...
Well, you do.
Sure.
Blog people tend to know who I am. But that's pretty much... It's really fascinating. I had a kid reach out to me this week, a kid, like a 12-year-old, who wanted to do a blog interview with me, and I wouldn't. I made up an excuse not to do it. And the reason was I am so negative right now that I didn't want to turn, a 10-year-old's dreams sour. When I talk to an adult and complain, they think it's hilarious, because it is.
Well, I can less than hilarious. I do sympathize. I think I can sympathize with you.
We need to know that my life is fine. I'm good. I have a wonderful life. I have no problem with my existence, to be quite honest. But no, I don't think Strange Behavior led to almost anything except Michael Laughlin hired me 2 more times for Strange Invaders and for Mesmerized, and I became part of that community, and it's wonderful. And I have friends from this that when I see Billy Condon or Michael Murphy or if I ever saw Mark McClure again, and I talked to Jim Bolson. We just love each other. It's amazing. And that is what I remember, and that's who I remember and how I remember it, and that's still strong. But I never became part of this cult community, unfortunately. I wish I did, I really do.
Which is, it's kind of funny that you say that, because you are such a big part of, I would say that at a time, Bill and Ted was a cult film. I mean, obviously now with Bill and Ted 3 coming out in COVID America, the entertainment industry stricken by COVID, which means nothing has come out this year. It's weird that everybody, they rallied around that film and it became less of a cult film all of a sudden. And that it's, I actually know a lot of people who have been rewatching Strange Behavior recently and, watching them kind of fawn over it. And that was before I had watched it. And I realized like you had mentioned, like if you're not part of the community, you don't see it. But it is there. Right. It is there, and it's it's very the love for this film is apparent. Let's just put it that way.
Well, that's what I found when I went to the screening, and I get it. I love that they love it, and I get it, and I appreciate it. And I wish that inside of that community, I know there are filmmakers. I know they're making movies. They don't know I'm alive and well and healthy. I've been in TV in the last 3 or 4 years in New York doing the New York TV shows, like Bull and Blue Bloods and stuff like that. And I'm still working. I just don't work as much as I want to. I've been doing a lot of theater. That's beside the point.
Well, it's a little bit more of a astute version of of the job, right?
No, it's just it's heavier lifting, much heavier lifting. So, especially for me now, I play the leads in theater, and I'm the lawyer on television.
Sure. So you mentioned the screening that you went to. Kind of, tell me a little bit about, you saw the film. How recently was that screening that you went to?
About 5 to 6 years ago.
Okay.
In Brooklyn somewhere. There's an old time screening room, old time movie theater, a real old time movie house with a bar.
Sure.
And Michael Murphy and I got there early, drank some drinks, watched the movie together with a packed house, and then did a talk back afterwards. It was amazing. Amazing. I enjoyed the film, but I loved the audience because they are these fans that you're talking about.
Right.
These were people they're film buffs. These guys know, like you do, about movies. You know about genres. You know how this film dips his foot into teen comedy, into horror, into satire, and into from all these genres, and they knew all this stuff, and we knew we were having fun back at that time, and that's what I remember. They would ask, Dan, you look like you were having a ball. I said, I was.
That does come across on screen big time. It does look like you were having the time of your life, and again, I assume horror movies, that's just kind of like, if you're into it, like you're just loving every minute of it.
I turned down so many horror movies. I can't tell you, because that was the time of teen horror movies.
Right.
Where the kids would go into the woods and 5 of them would come back, I turned down a barrel of them. It wasn't until Strange Behavior when it was Michael Laughlin. And these were cinephiles. And they got me from Wise Blood, which was you talk about cult films. These guys knew what they wanted, and they knew why they wanted me, and they, everybody in it was, we filmmakers. There's nobody in this thing that wasn't a filmmaker. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Day Young is a filmmaker. I'm a filmmaker. She came from a filmmaking family. We were the kids. And Mark McClure, incredibly bright people, incredibly bright. And that they hired us. They didn't hire, beauties, freaks, like they do in all the horror movies, the prettiest kids.
Sure.
Who don't necessarily have a background in the arts. Anyway, I turned down a bunch of horror films because I didn't really like horror films.
Any of those stand out as like films that would go on to be big successes, if you remember?
Oh, fuck. Well, I turned down Porky's.
Oh, okay. I would say because you were in New York in the 80s, correct?
No, I grew up in New York, and I was flown to L.A. to do a miniseries called Studs Lonigan, to play Studs Lonigan in a miniseries called Studs Lonigan. And once I got to L.A. with Studs Lonigan, I got a great agent, and I worked. That's what happened. I mean, Studs Lonigan playing Studs. Studs Lonigan was a miniseries which, post Roots, it was going to be the next massive miniseries.
Right.
And it was pretty big. And it jump-started my career, my television career and film career. But I would go back and forth because my family was in New York. I can't even remember the names of the movies.
Sure.
Because I just never saw them.
Well, if you don't take the role, what does it matter? What does it matter either way?
It didn't matter. People watched them, but I didn't. I never watched them.
Sure.
And I was doing well. The point was that I was getting movies, and I was getting television series and miniseries. I was working all the time, so I had the ability to make choices, and I didn't want to get stuck in a genre at the time. And I thought I was really cool. Now I would do them in a heartbeat.
Sure. And it's always kind of interesting to hear actors, like yourself, who are kind of, they've been acting for a while, hear them say, like, if I had the chance to do it now, like, fuck it, I would do it.
But I would do it now. But the thing is, I'm glad I didn't do it then, because I'm not doing a horror film, and I'm doing the Blue and the Gray miniseries,
Sure.
Because I was working. I'd get a job. I was turning stuff down the way that, you think about how many jobs has Tom Hanks turned down? Thousands. Now, I was never as famous as Tom Hanks. I was never on a list like he is on now, but I was on a list like he was in his 20s, and he turned stuff down because you have choices. And at the time, I had many choices. And now I have very few choices. So I'm usually saying yes. And that's a big difference between then and now. It's just on the scale, you're either on the A list or you're on no list. And I'm on a list of people that you remember. And that's pretty, it's more than nothing, but yeah.
Well, I mean, look, again, I am, and still, again, I feel thankful and grateful that you said yes, because again, you have been in some films that when I saw them, and these aren't even movies this isn't a film that we're talking about now. Again, I just saw Strange Behavior, but I mean, I grew up in a household where my dad is kind of your age. And I mean, he grew up watching Tron, and I also saw Bill and Ted at a formidable age as well. I mean, obviously, 17 years after it came out, but same point is, like you said, I mean, you are in things that people have seen a lot.
Yeah. No, and they love them, and I love them. So that's great. It's a wonderful thing, and I'm proud of that. It's kind of lovely to have that in your life.
Right.
I find it's wonderful. Yeah.
So back to Strange Behavior. You've mentioned going to this screening and how rewarding it was. What was kind of and you touched on it a little bit. What was your initial reaction when you saw the finished film the first time?
The first time I just kept thinking how I didn't like this moment I did or that moment I did. I believed myself there. I don't believe myself there. You know how people do that. Actors,
sure.
Really. This time I looked at it and I said, damn, I was adorable. Damn, I was pretty. Look, I weighed 135 pounds of twisted iron and steel. I thought I was like, God damn, I was happy. That's what I remember, how much fun I was emitting. I mean, it was genuinely gleeful from beginning shot to end, and it worked, and it gave a flavor to the film. It wasn't just me; everybody was giving a flavor of glee to this film, and I remember that I don't remember when I was a kid because I was being so judgmental, and I was really working out. When you're in films, it takes a while before you truly trust yourself in how you translate onto film.
Sure.
And the choices you make, how do they translate? And 50 years later, or what was it, 30-something years later, I feel pretty good about it now. I go, wow, man, I was as good as I thought I was. And I was certainly as good as they needed and who they thought I was, which was quite lovely.
Well, and for me, as someone like you've kind of already mentioned, having this background in film, for me, your performance in the film is really good. And that's not something you say very often in horror films, especially 80s horror films, because a lot of they didn't put a lot of effort into developing characters, and your character in the film feels completely and fully fleshed out, which is, again...
It's also one of the few times in my career where I'm actually saying, Dan, it's you. Just play yourself. I'm a character actor, and I come from that universe. I come from the stage, and I come from where you create something that is... You take who you are, but translate that into another creature. I did the opposite. I said, I got to play myself. I am playing myself in this. And I remember Mark McClure and just cracking each other up on film intentionally so that we would have that feel and just being ourselves, because Mark is very, very himself on film. He was Jimmy Olsen, and he is Jimmy Olsen. It's exactly who he is, all arms and elbows. And I remember the two of us just being ourselves. And I remember being myself and doing everything that I can to be myself. And Louise Fletcher, Michael, everybody. There was no, except for Arthur Dignam, I don't remember there being much character work. Everyone was just, this is me, if I were in this situation. And that's what I look back on. I go, wait a minute, I could do that. And the funny thing is, after Strange Behavior, television networks did come to me and offer me potential series because they liked me. And I was like, wow, that was so cool. So cool.
So speaking of kind of your kind of role in the film and you just kind of being yourself, is there a scene in the film that you kind of gravitate towards more or have more fond memories of, thinking back on the film?
The party, I remember the party just being absolutely hilarious. I loved that party, the dance party, the silly party, and then the chasing girl getting stabbed in her legs. It was fun. I just remember that night. It was a strange night, and it was really fun. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it. And
that comes through on screen. I mean, it genuinely doesn't feel like a forced party.
No, and the final scene where, You Are My Father was in a bizarre, it was way out in the countryside in, what's it called, where telescopes are.
An observatory.
Observatory. It was some distant observatory up a hill. And it was so strange and soundproof. That room was soundproof. It was dead air. It was really bizarre. So it really helped create that atmosphere where there was no atmosphere in the room. Very cool.
And again, that finale of the film does take place in that, like you've mentioned, it is an observatory, but it feels such an alien setting that this is where this character has been hiding out the whole time, aside from the one time you run into him. But it's just such a foreign, bizarre setting that it does kind of amplify the kind of the weirdness that the film, with a name like Strange Behavior, that it does kind of devolve into, because the film, once you get injected in the eye, it does start kind of devolving into a weird fever dream where you're not sure where your character's allegiances lie, or if your character can overcome the programming. And it's such a strong climax, the twist notwithstanding. It is such a strong climax because that setting is so just kind of foreign and alien and weird.
Yeah, I love that. I loved it.
Any kind of final lasting thought on the film and its kind of effect on your career?
It had, I believe, minimal effect on my career. Unfortunately, like I said, Strange Behavior didn't become Strange Behavior till at least 10 years after it opened.
Right.
It was not a hit. It didn't hit like any of the Friday the 13th or the Halloween movies. It didn't hit like any of the horror genre of its time. It didn't happen. I assume it broke even. It was a low-budget film. I assume it broke even, and then Michael Laughlin made his money back, I hope. But it didn't become a cult movie until I don't know how long afterwards. It might have had something to do with Bill Condon, and once he became a famous director, and everybody went back to take a look at it, and they went, holy shit, holy cow. And then they fell in love with it. But at the time, nothing. And then 10 years after it's made, I'm not a kid anymore. So it never translated into anything other than me shooting Mesmerized and Strange Invaders with Michael Laughlin. But no, it never affected my career in any way. And neither did Bill and Ted Tron did, but Bill and Ted didn't either. It was one of those things where I think, you see Bill and Ted, for example, and you go, oh, there's Billy the Kid. They don't go, there's an actor playing Billy the Kid. There's Billy the Kid, and are there other parts for Billy the Kid? That's like, no, there are no other parts for Billy the Kid. Billy the Kid is Billy the Kid. So it didn't lead to anything either. It's really interesting.
When do you remember someone saying, other than kind of initially, like you've mentioned, needle in the eye, kind of after the film came out, when do you remember kind of hearing people talking about the film or people reaching out to you to talk about the film? I think that's kind of interesting, right?
I'm going to say that time when they called me to go to Brooklyn. That's it.
Interesting.
That is, Billy Condon called me once to tell me it's doing really well now. And can we do, he's going to do a commentary. And I did commentary with Tae Young with Billy. And that was maybe 20 years ago. And I was surprised, really surprised. But that was it. And then that was it. Also, you have to remember, here's another thing that happened. I left Hollywood about close to 20 years ago, 15 to 20 years ago. I lived in Hollywood all that time, and then my career started to dwindle. And I'd get frustrated and angry. I was teaching acting, I was directing plays, but I wasn't working enough, and I was losing money every month. I went off to the South Pacific and lived in the South Pacific and became a videographer and a travel filmmaker. And then moved to the Philippines, where I taught filmmaking and hosted a reality TV show. Then when my parents got sick, I moved back to New York, and I've been here now for about 13 years, and work in television and direct corporate videos. But rarely have I heard anything about anything that I do other than from bloggers. And every 5 years or so, I go off and do, a signing show.
Sure.
And that's it. It's really bizarre. I feel, when people call me and ask to talk to me, I go, of course, because I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I still, exist in an industry that I love and do not want to be in. I always want to be in it. No actor doesn't I don't know about no actor. It's more fun than a barrel of fucking monkeys. And that is how I've always seen my career, even though I take it very seriously and care about it so much. But it's more fun than a barrel of monkeys. I look at the best times of my life, aside from marrying my wife, and it's usually had to do with the experience of creating something with other people.
All right, big thanks to Dan Shor for sitting down and talking with me. You'll probably hear him in the future when we do a Tron episode, because fucking love Tron, especially the original. The sequel's good. I will stand by that. I know that is an unpopular fucking opinion. It had Daft Punk in it. How bad could it fucking be? It had Daft Punk and Jeff Bridges, motherfuckers. What do you want?
But Jeff Bridges, looks weird.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Well, okay, hold on. It still had Jeff Bridges as Jeff Bridges playing a human character. Yes, I will agree. I will agree, of all the films that came out in that time span with that, I wouldn't say gimmick, but that kind of a gimmick, it is probably the worst, right? Like, it's so uncanny valley. Like, just hire an actor. Don't make it Jeff Bridges CGI, guys. I mean,
get rid of every crease on his face.
Well, because look, that's what you remembered. That's what you remember from that film, and like that's bad because it's
just
bad.
His weird, round, shiny face.
That's bad because that movie's good, and that is bad. Like, I'm not going to defend that shit at all.
I will say that the Peter Cushing in Star Wars was okay. Mostly because he kind of looked like a corpse anyway.
The Peter Cushing in Star Wars, it may be a little bit better. It's all about lighting, right? Like,
yeah, it is. And they had to you keep that shit in the dark.
Yeah. And if you don't, you get something like Jeff Bridges.
You get Coyote Ugly.
Well, you get Jeff Bridges, who's whose eyes are flashing off of neon lights.
Twinkly.
Yeah, it's really weird. But let's talk about the climax of the film. So Dan Shor, we've already mentioned, gets injected in the eye with some green fluid. We don't know what it is. And this brainwashes him and unlocks a part of his brain that allows him to, I guess, I don't know.
I guess it's some kind of psychic ability, right?
I could not agree. I'm honestly not going to agree with you because I don't know. I never for once thought it was, but I guess it could be like psychic mind control, like an MK Ultra type thing. I guess. I mean, that's as good an explanation as any.
Yeah, when I was reading about this movie and stuff, a lot of stuff that I kept seeing that was kind of related to it. Things like Firestarter, which that movie wouldn't come out until a couple of years later, but I can't remember when the book was out. It might have been out in the 70s. But there was kind of this whole this fascination of psychic kids. I mean, you see that in The Brood and another Australian movie we didn't watch, but Patrick, which is another one of these sort of I'm broke and need some money, so I'm going to go do an experiment type thing.
Right.
Movies. And so yeah, I kind of figured that it was just some kind of unlocked this part of his brain that he was just more kind of a super person at that point.
I thought maybe they were more suggestible. I don't know. I mean, whatever it is, Dan Shor is programmed to kill his father.
Right.
And so his
a sleeper cell.
Right, exactly. And his father goes to the graveyard to dig up Lessange's grave, who should be dead. He's not dead, so Lessange is going to show up at some point in the film. And so Michael Murphy goes to look for Lessange. Dan Shor shows up, brainwashed. Lessange gets carted out by Fiona Lewis in a wheelchair, played by Arthur Dignam. A very interesting looking gentleman. He reminded me a lot, and this is going to be a very deep cut for any of you who are fans of Men at Work. He looks like the lead singer from Men at Work. Wow. Hell of a deep cut. But he's in the wheelchair, and kind of chaos ensues because they tell him to kill his father. That's what Dan Shor is being told to do. And Jess, who does he kill?
Well,
technically kills his father.
Technically. Yeah, it has that moment of and we're going to throw in this final twist and say that this kid that you thought was your kid this whole time actually belongs to this creep because your wife was involved.
Well, that's what we never find out is, I guess.
Right. Yeah. We don't know at all the extent of the relationship that the dead wife had with this mad scientist.
We can't even begin to make conclusions because the film flat out does not really tell us. It says they were kind of close and then one day she was dead.
Right. So did he kill her?
That's the other thing. I don't know. I mean,
did he find out that she was having an affair and then killed her and then had this kind of mental breakdown? That's interesting.
I mean, that's as far as my headcanon, it was something to that effect where Michael Murphy was the interloper character and he took him away from Lessange, and that kind of, maybe he got jealous, who knows, and he killed her, but he didn't realize that, because they had to have been working together for a while because he had to impregnate her.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Murphy's character had to think that was his son, so the timing would have to be perfect, and he would have to be born before she died. So there's also that.
Was he like implanted in her?
I think that her and Lessange must have had a relationship.
See, because I could see it being like they like kind of like implanted like some like into her.
Again, that could be it. I mean, again, it's that this movie does leave some stuff open to interpretation. It's not stuff that would, this doesn't crash the movie, though. Like, there are some movies where you pull the one pin out and all of a sudden the film crashes down on top of your head.
No, the more pins you pull out on this, the creepier it gets.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I completely agree.
It's like, actually, maybe put that pin back.
Yeah. So who does Dan Shor murder? Dan Shor murders Arthur Dignam, Lessange, who is his father, unbeknownst to him.
But I guess he knows intrinsically now that he's super person.
Oh, you're talking about how did Dan Shor know Lessange was his dad?
Yeah.
I don't know that either.
Right.
Like, if they're saying kill your father and you are under mind control, how is it like a cellular thing then? It would have to be.
There's no number 9 situation here.
Well, it has to be like on a cellular level, you know that he's your father.
Right.
Because
yeah,
he doesn't even know he's his father.
Right. He's like, wait, what? Oh, shit. It's me?
But that's the other crazy thing, right? Arthur Dignam, Lessange, doesn't know that he's Dan Shor's father either. He can't. He can't know. Because if he did know, he would never tell him to murder his father, knowing he is his father.
Right.
So I don't fucking know.
I don't...
It's like the film contorts itself into a pretzel at the end and it's just like, fuck you guys. Your fucking problem, not mine.
You sat here and watched me do this.
I mean, I don't know about you, but, it's a twist that doesn't make a lot of sense. But you know what? I kind of like it. Like, yeah, it works because I do think that this movie drags. I will still stand by that. But I do think that it does, and that's why I picked it, because it's just interesting. It is a weird, interesting experiment in filmmaking. Like the fact that it's made by 3 countries and made intentionally to look like one of them and kind of captures it. I would more or less, yeah.
It's all very fascinating that it could, again, ever even be made.
And also, it has a really interesting pedigree behind it. Bill Condon, holy shit. And, Michael Laughlin as well, who would go on to make Strange Invaders, kind of the sequel piece to this. So there's a lot. And, again, all the actors involved. It's very interesting, like you said, because there's just it also has a happy ending, which for a horror movie is divisive, right? Like, I don't know. I used to have this conversation with my former co-host many moons ago, for you listeners who have been listening for more than one episode, about the prospects of ending a horror movie on a positive as opposed to a negative. And he did not like horror movies that ended on a positive note. And we've never had this conversation. So I'm curious, where do you come? Because this movie has a positive ending. I would think we both agree. There's not a jump scare. There's no any sort of doubt in anyone's mind when they finish the film. The film is over. There's no twist. There's no open-ended hanging anything. How do you feel about definitive happy endings or positive endings in horror films?
I'm fine with it. I think that is a huge issue in horror and the gatekeepingness behind horror in general, and that horror has to for some reason check off each box of does it have gore? Does it have a naked woman? Does it end horribly bleak for everybody involved? And then you can have a horror movie. But no, I don't think so. I think that horror movies can have happy endings. A movie that I know that you and I are both very big fans of, but The Final Girls is a horror movie. It is a slasher movie. And sure, it has a lot of emotion to it. And it does have a happy ending and it makes me teary-eyed. but it's still a horror movie. People still die. Like, it still has those moments. But no, I don't think that it has to end, bleakly. Do I prefer things to end a little bleakly? Yeah, probably. But that's a personal taste. That's not like just because that's what I think horror movies have to be.
Are you saying in horror or in general? Because as far as I'm concerned, like, I do like an ending in a film, regardless of genre, where it is a skosh, like bittersweet. Mm-hmm. Like, you need to have a little. The characters need to lose something to gain something.
Right.
That's just script writing 101.
That is yes, exactly. You have to. Your characters have to be faced with a thing that they want to get, and then they have to be faced with the sacrifices that they're willing to make to get that thing.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be people. It could be one of my favorite films, like top 5, Zodiac. That movie is about sacrificing yourself to try and find out something. It's about characters losing their lives, metaphorically and physically in some respects, to the pursuit of a serial killer. The main characters in that movie don't die, but they lose a lot in the process of the film. Like, I get it with the negative ending. Everything's got to be dour. It's a horror movie. I've never thought of it as gatekeeping, but you are 100% right. It is 100% fucking gatekeeping. And like the rest of gatekeeping, that shit needs to stop. Because you know what it does?
It's all just like things to make you seem like harder than the next fan. And it's like, that's not what this is about.
Oh, 100%. Like, it is, like, awesome. You don't like positive endings in movies. Well, so you're telling me that you never want there to be stakes for whether or not you care if a character survives or not? Because if it's a negative ending, the main character always dies.
Right.
There's never going to be a character you can knowingly root for because all those characters die anyways. So... What are the stakes
just like,
then?
And now I just sat here for an hour and a half to watch the exact things I thought were going to happen.
Yeah, like, I get that you want to be given what you want, but Jesus Christ, maybe want a little... I mean, we got into this huge argument one time about The Conjuring, and it was like, I don't like The Conjuring because The Conjuring's has a happy, like, an upbeat ending.
Right.
And I'm like, holy shit, The Conjuring's a fucking great movie. Like,
yeah.
The Conjuring is one of the best horror films of the last 20 years. I have no problem admitting that. I love it. I watch it more than I probably should, especially the second one. But you're going to discount it because it has a positive ending?
Right.
Come on.
Like, well, that ruined my whole rest of my experience. I wanted these family to just perish.
Like, actually, I want the family to survive because the family in that movie is super likable. Like,
well, and that's the thing. Yeah. Like, when you have characters that you actually care about, then you do want to see good things happen to them. When you have a bunch of like, nothing people doing shitty things, then you don't give a shit. And then it makes the story very hollow.
So the question then becomes, Jess, is that then horror fans wanting lazy screenwriting and being okay with lazy screenwriting as long as they're blood and guts? Is that really what we're talking about here?
I mean, I think that you can pretty much say that about all movies. And that we're going to go with the laziest, easiest way to do this.
Yeah, but in horror, it feels easier, right? Because you have the baked-in gore.
Well, because the horror icons, the iconic things in horror that you think of that all of like society thinks of are slasher movies,
right?
Or things like The Exorcist or Jaws, like the big name things. But when people think of a genre, when you say horror, like if I just walked up to somebody on the street and said, "Tell me what you think a horror movie is," they would probably say somebody getting, like stabbed to death or something.
They'd probably say Michael Myers or Freddy or Jason.
Yeah, they'd say something like that. And look, I love those movies. I'm a Nightmare on Elm Street. I love that franchise. I love Freddy. The Nightmare on Elm Street is the movie that got me into like hardcore horror movie that got me into horror.
And you're not alone.
At the time when I was 10.
You're not alone because Nightmare on Elm Street is what got me into horror. Like I'm not even saying that to glom on. That is a shared experience. Like that's real.
But I liken it to food, right? Look, I love a bag of Doritos. I will sit here and eat a bag of Doritos until it's all gone. Tasty, great, awesome. But I occasionally would like a lobster dinner. And for the genre, I think that there's, for some reason, there's this weird, and a lot of it is nostalgia, I think, for fans of a certain age and older, especially the fans that were kids in the 80s and, you know, we're living on Fangoria magazines and, you know, the next Friday the 13th movie and all that's the fun stuff. And I'm sure that it would have been awesome to live throughout that. I'm sure that it would have. But
before Fangoria became a shell of its former self, and
you don't get to, you don't get to dictate an entire genre just because you're not 12 anymore and you want to be 12.
I agree. I mean, it'd be like everyone saying the only kind of movie I find funny is something like Airplane. And the Zucker brothers tried, and they tried, and they tried, and they're still trying to make movies like Airplane. And you know what? They're not fucking successful.
No, because you beat a dead horse.
Yeah, and I hate to break it to everybody, and I think you might agree with me. The slasher genre is fucking dead. So it's not just...
It's hard to revive.
It's not just dead. It's goddamn buried.
Like, the only way that you can bring it back is if you're doing things like remakes or you do things like Final Girls, where it's a slasher movie in spirit because that's what it's set in.
And it's a love letter to
but
the
it's
fans.
not... Right, but it's not a slasher movie in that it's like people go to a camp and then are murdered, and that's the movie. That's in the movie. That's just not the movie. But the slasher genre is really hard because it's also, you know, horror has its own issues with, you know, especially slashers being super misogynistic. Like, you know, whether. I know people don't like to hear it, and, you know, woke horror fans and blah blah blah. And hey, like I said, I'm looking at my books right now, and I have like a fucking encyclopedia of slasher movies. I love them. Do I recognize that they're pretty problematic in a large respect towards women? Yes, absolutely. I also don't hold them as the highest of standard in the genre either. That's you know, they're not the top. I would say that Nightmare on Elm Street is the higher level slasher for me. And that's just because it deals in dream stuff, and it's less about, like, you know, like Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th is all about, like, kids have sex and then they die.
Well, hold on, Jess. That meme, that trope that you just described, literally came from Friday the 13th. Like, exactly. Yeah, like that's literally the movie.
Like that's it. But Nightmare on Elm Street, it's not that. I mean, and Halloween's the same thing, where it's like, oh, Laurie Strode lives because she's the virgin. Nightmare on Elm Street, it's kind of there's no rules here because you all have to sleep. So.
And that first Nightmare on Elm Street's great. And then everything else, except for 3 and New Nightmare, they kind of forget that there are rules and just kind of ignore them. So, but that's not a problem. Because they're a slasher. They're a dumb slasher movie. Come on. Like.
Right. And enjoy them. Love them. I watch them. But you have to also understand there's more to the genre. And if you want people to actually, like, you know, watch the genre, then you have to do more than make them a bowl of popcorn.
I will say, though, the thing, because we're talking about kind of the horror genre, and, you know, I feel like almost we should do this once a fucking year in October because the horror genre continues to do its own thing. We have seen, obviously this year is a fucking anomaly for so many goddamn reasons. Namely, we can't watch fucking new movies for the most part, except for the things that were already filmed and are coming out, and the studios said, just throw it to VOD, who cares? Horror and the what do we call it? Elevated horror, right? That's still a thing. It's funny to me because you mentioned Jaws and The Exorcist, right? I know that this pisses some people off, and it may piss you off. I don't consider Jaws a horror movie. I don't consider The Exorcist a horror movie. I consider those movies tenets of our film culture as Western audiences at this point. And, like, they're too important to just be called horror movies, but they are horror movies, obviously. This elevated horror thing feels like kind of a underhanded response to the horror fans that you're talking about. The ones who are gatekeeping. Elevated horror kind of feels like a fuck you response to them.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of that, you know, and much like with most things, it unfortunately has been politicized, but you can guess which, you know, versus the firmly camp 80s and firmly camp elevated. You can decide for yourself who votes for what. But
the 80s films were written in the 80s. The new ones were written in the 2020s or a little earlier. I think we know who's who at this point.
So, yeah, I think that, like, it's part in response to that. And I think that it also is just like people are just done when it's like, you know what, fine. If you want to like it, like it. If you don't want to like it and you want to bitch, than go spend $45 on the next thing that Arrow's going to throw out that you saw one time in 1983.
Well, the other thing is, why do we have to sit here and say, you know what I don't want horror to do? I don't want horror to tell me a story with characters I care about, with stakes that matter, with a story worth telling that isn't just people being fucking diced up. Why do we need to settle for that? Because right. I know that that's what other people want. Like you said, these people that buy Sleepaway Camp or fucking, what's the other one? The Burning. I mean, that movie's okay, but...
Mm-hmm. Hey, I have The Burning.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, you know what absolutely. I mean? Like, it checks all the boxes for shit like that. Like, people getting cut up, people dying, boobs, blood, 80s, drenched in 80s nostalgia. And while I'm not the biggest fan of elevated horror, because I think elevated horror has its own problems, which it does... I'm more in the camp of let's get more movies like elevated horror because I want to give a shit about the characters. I want to give a shit, and I want to feel like you give a shit about the characters too.
And there are also movies that tend to take more of a chance or a risk on something. They tend to focus on either a subject matter that's not constantly done, or it does just lend itself to a more interesting palette, like something like with Dead Kids, where it's like, yeah, I'm allowed to go into this movie and expect it to be pretty cerebral because that's what we expect from elevated horror.
Right. Well, and I mean, again, you have, I guess in the horror community, there are people who are okay for settling for a film that is just popcorn and nothing else. And that's fine. But we can't sit here as horror fans and settle for that. Because if we settle for that, the entire genre settles for it, and we stop getting those movies. Like Midsommar, like Hereditary, like The Lighthouse, like The Vitch. Like, yeah, it's just, to me, it feels like a bunch of folks saying, I'm okay with watching the same shit over and over again, and I don't want them to ever have anything to say.
Right, because it makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah, and it's like, holy shit, guys. Like, come on.
Because it's security blankets in movie form.
And I wish it was just guys, but it's not.
It's not. I mean, it's a lot, but it's not.
It is a lot of horror man babies, and you know who you are.
Yep.
And you think you need to listen to podcasts talk about the same old movies over and over again with opinions that have never changed in the last 30 years. And you know what? They're going to get more views than us, but that's fine. I don't give a shit because I'm not going to pander any more than Jess is going to fucking pander. So, I mean, we're not going to fucking pander. Like, the horror community is fucked big time. It has a lot of problems. And the people who are making films now are trying to fix the problems of people who made shit in the 90s and 2000s that really brought, I would say, a negative spin to the horror genre, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like Eli Roth. Someone like the Soska sisters. They have their own problems, but I mean, you have elevated horror because of shit like Hostel, right? I mean, that's why elevated horror exists. As far as, right? Saw. I mean, I'm not going to say Saw, because that first Saw movie is a goddamn police procedural.
Also very blue.
But stuff like Hostel is the reason we have elevated horror.
Yeah, because it was that that early 2000s era of horror that was obviously all very xenophobic because it was
in response
Bush
to 9/11.
Horror, so we got to be because we got to be afraid of the other, and but that just like reigned true for so long, and then we had like that huge boom of remakes where it was Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, I Spit on Your Grave, Last House on the Left. All of those came out while I was working at Regal.
I'm trying to think if you missed any. When a Stranger Calls.
When a Stranger Calls, yes, that's true.
Oh my God, there's so many.
A lot of those came out right around that. Like it was like early 2000s to mid 2000s.
Was torture porn.
And then horror kind of died for a minute because they were like, what do we do? Nobody wants these remakes. These fucking Platinum Dune remakes. Nobody
Which is a shame
wants.
Because the first Platinum Dune remake is the best one.
Oh, Texas Chainsaw. I forgot about that one.
That's the best one.
I will agree. That's a good one. I should rewatch that, actually.
It's really good. It's also got Jessica Biel in it.
Well, hey.
Well, hey from everybody around. And it has Andrew Barzinski playing Leatherface. And you know what? I will give Platinum Dunes credit. they took the villains from the slasher movies, except for Jackie Earle Haley. They made him into fucking hulking monsters. So,
oh yeah, they did.
Andrew Bierzinski and Derek Mears are huge human beings.
Well, I mean, that's what Rob Zombie did with Michael Myers too.
Oh god,
because he put Tyler Mane in there, and I mean, he effectively turned Michael Myers into Jason. And I will still stand by parts of both of those Halloween movies.
I want to give Rob Zombie credit for doing something different, but I also would like to tell Rob Zombie, make your own fucking movie, dude, because you probably could have made something even cooler if you hadn't been tied to having to pander to Michael Myers fans who then got mad at you for not giving them what they wanted.
Or got mad at you for being too violent.
Yeah, and then they all creamed their
Rob
pants
Zombie, I don't know what you want. Honestly, the thing that I hate the most about his second Rob Zombie movie is the character of Laurie and her friends. They are fucking noxious.
Compared to the first movie, yeah.
Well, and that's I think that he did capture some of the good Halloweens. If we could just chop off the first fucking origin story of that movie and just pick up with Laurie and Haddonfield, I'd be okay with that. Because it would effectively just be the same movie, but with more blood.
See, I don't mind the origin story because that's Rob Zombie's own thing that he's, it's not particularly creative or new or unique. He's essentially just I read a Wikipedia page for Jeffrey Dahmer and it said he killed animals. So I'll just kill animals on screen and that will be enough for you to understand that he's a bad guy. But at least it's not just the same shit all over again, which is a lot of the rest of that movie.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, Rob Zombie is a thing that, a filmmaker that I enjoyed in my early 20s and now not so much.
Well, I haven't seen anything that he's made after Halloween 2, namely 31, is that what it's called? Just 31? And
it's
Witches
awful.
of Salem?
Lords of Salem, and that's also awful.
Yeah, I saw the posters and I said, nah, I'm good. Because, the people who are into those movies now are, kind of trying too hard to be, edgy. It's A House of a Thousand Corpses was turned into a universal fucking haunted house. It is officially now children's play as far as I'm concerned. The moment you turn a edgy horror film into a fucking haunted house at Universal Studios is the moment it's this is for fucking kids now, guys. It is, right? Yeah.
Because you franchise.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, now you're here to sell things to kids.
Yeah, you're not going to see a strange behavior haunted house with someone chasing after you in a Tor Johnson mask. I'm not saying you shouldn't make it, but I'm saying you're not going to see it.
If I had a house.
Yeah. All of a sudden, there's just a guy in a bald Tor Johnson mask, and the people who are not have any clue, they're just what the fuck is this?
Just walking up and down the hallways of my apartment building.
Is it to find this scary or what? It something like Strange Behavior just goes to show that regardless of the era the films were being made, namely the 80s, this is technically made in the post Friday the 13th era of horror, you can still do interesting things and still be successful. And you don't have to make a slasher film that is hyper gory because this movie's not.
You can do it minimally.
Yeah.
You can do it very minimally.
There's not a lot of gore in this movie. You don't even really see the kills in this movie.
No, we just have a couple we do see that one girl slicing off that guy's arm.
But that's it.
That's true. But it's a good one. That's some good Herschel Gordon Lewis type gore, which I enjoy.
But again, this movie is really good for what it is. And it's so different that it is its own thing. And that I think is what the film really benefits from. Because if you were this is a slasher, you'd be bored.
Right.
If you said this is a mad scientist movie, you would also be bored. But if you're it's just kind of its own fucking thing, I'm all on board for that. 100%.
Yep.
So what would you give the film out of 5?
I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I would give it a 3.5 as well. It's a film that I've already told other people I know to watch. It's not Halloween anymore, unfortunately, but I need to rewatch it because I haven't watched it since.
If you only watch horror movies during October, then we all know you're a chump. So,
ooh, that's fair. It does always crack me up when I hear people say that. It's it's October, time to watch horror movies. I'm what are you watching the rest of the year?
Like, what do you do any other time? Like,
Yeah, like how many times have I watched Halloween Town when it's like January?
right. It just makes me feel good. All right,
Yeah,
man.
like, yo, I'm down for Kimberly J. Brown. Was a little hurt that she didn't want to be on the podcast when we talked about the movie. But, hey, the fact that she's literally dating the guy who played Calabar, I still blows my...
It's kind of great.
It fucking blows my mind. Every time, because look, I have TikTok because I'm a sad bastard, and they do TikToks together, and it is just like glorious.
Adorable.
It is. It's so good. Shout out to Kimberly J. Brown. I know you're not going to listen to this because why would you? But yeah, your TikToks are great. And the fact that you are with the person who played the villain in the movie that you were in when you were like 16, super fucking. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.5. That was a really long way to get there, but 3.5. It's a fun movie. Don't go into it expecting too much because it's fucking weird.
It's a slow burn, man.
It is. And that twist at the end almost doesn't work. Like it verges close on not working.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like if it is like one wrong move.
Yeah, that twist was on tenuous ground, but it totally works. I when he stabs Arthur Dignam, I'm just like, okay, like
okay.
Yeah, that was your dad. Sure. So, well, with Horrortober in the rearview mirror, let's play a preview for the next film.
Legend tells of a band of noble guardians, sworn to vanquish evil and to save our kingdom. But they remain lost in the mists of Gahul, hidden to all but those who believe. Stop! You're gonna give her daymares.
But this is my favorite part.
You have a soft head, Soren, filled with stories and dreams. There's nothing wrong with dreams.
My soldiers, it is time to take the Owl Kingdoms.
Those birds are doing something terribly wrong.
And you're gonna need to fly a long way to get to the Guardians.
You mean they're real?
Oh, they're real, all right.
What are we gonna do, Soren?
We're gonna find the Guardians of Gahul.
You've all come this far, each protecting the other. When you have flown as far as you can, you're halfway there.
What did he say?
We're halfway there.
There were some really scary beasts out that way. You can breathe now.
What are they really doing here?
They've built an army. Powerful enough to take over all the Owl Kingdoms. Go tell the Guardians!
On his way to finding the legend, he will become one. You too can be a great Guardian.
Follow me! Get them!
An ambush! I bet you didn't count on this.
Hold on!
Come on, Soren. We're not finished yet, boy. To be a young owl with a taste for adventure, arriving at the tree for the first time.
Legend of the Guardians, the Owls of Gahul.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Owls.
Owls who?
Ha, that's right, owls who?
If I have to hear any more of his ridiculous owl jokes.
It's hilarious.
That's right. On the next Culture Cast, we're going to be talking about a film that one of our Patreon supporters actually paid me money to watch. That is something you can also do if you go to Patreon right now, like $5 if you want me to talk about something and force someone else to do it. We're going to be talking about Zack Snyder's... What do you think I'm going to say, Jess?
I don't know. There's so much. That's just a bad preview. Watchmen?
We're going to be talking about Zack Snyder's film... The Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Gahul.
So that movie came out when I worked at Regal, and I couldn't care less to see it.
So, yeah, we're going to be watching The Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Gahul, a CGI owl film directed by Cinema Bubonic Plague, Zack Snyder. I mean, he really fucking is.
Yeah.
Why did
Also,
anyone give
movies
him...
that are very blue.
Why did anyone give him $70 million to finish a movie that was a piece of shit? Like, are you people need $70 million? You need somewhere to hide your money? Because, like, my pocket, Jess's pocket, perfectly
that
fine. Like, give Jess a couple $1 million. If you're having a hard time, give her money, give me money.
I can do like 10 movies with that much money.
We could make 10 movies with like $2 million. $70 million.
70 million, dude. Yeah. I could make 70 movies if I wanted to make $1 million movies.
$70 million to finish a movie that's technically already finished. They're making the director's... It's the most expensive director's cut that has ever existed, is essentially what it is. So, you know what, though? He made a movie with owls. We're going to be talking about it. Cullen is going to be joining me. Richard was supposed to join us, but Richard doesn't want to watch a movie about owls on election night. That was his literal reasoning to me, was I don't want to watch a movie about owls on election night, which is perfectly fine. I guarantee you, though, Jess, that podcast is going to be a hoot.
I guarantee it is.
Yeah. Oh, boy. And this is where my podcast fucking tenure comes to an end. No, in October, we talked about horror movies. In November, we're going to be talking about fantasy films. So Richard is actually going to join me later in the month when we talk about Babe, Pig in the City, a film directed by George Miller. Yes, George Miller, the guy who directed fucking Mad Max Fury Road.
Yep.
Also the guy who directed Happy Feet 1 and 2. So...
Yep.
So there you go.
Man likes his talking animal movies.
Boy, doesn't he? And apparently Babe Pig in the City is like very weird.
Have you never seen Babe Pig in the City?
No, I haven't.
Oh my.
Is
have
it
fun.
super weird?
It's very weird.
Okay, cool. That's what I'm hoping for. Also in November, we're going to be talking about a film that I have never seen. A film that I'm kind of ashamed to say I've never seen. Legend, the Tim Curry film.
Very nice.
Yes, Tom Cruise is also in it.
Yes, he is.
I'm hoping that it breaks the rule of I fucking hate every Ridley Scott film other than Blade Runner and Alien. Because I really hate Ridley Scott, like, so much.
Yeah, I mean, his other movies are pretty fucking...
Yeah, don't you love Gladiator?
What, Gladiator?
Don't you love Black Hawk Down?
I don't think I ever saw Black Hawk Down.
Don't you love Robin Hood, also with Russell Crowe?
Oh, God.
Don't you love...
It's boring as fuck. That also came out when I worked at Regal. I worked at Regal for a long time.
Gods and Kings, that movie where Christian Bale plays an Egyptian person.
Oh my.
Yeah. Ridley Scott is what about fucking Prometheus and Alien Covenant?
All right, well, I like parts of those movies.
Parts.
Do
you like the part where Michael Fassbender fingers himself?
I mean, I like Michael Fassbender.
I do too. I just don't like Michael Fassbender as a robot with no emotion.
It's very strange.
So we'll be talking about Legend, and then we're going to be rounding out the month. And Jess, you'll be joining me along with our good friend Mike White to embark on a rather long podcast journey when we talk about
the
real journey. It's a little less than the one we were initially talking about. You and I were talking about just doing all the Harry Potter movie. A little less feasible. We're actually going to be talking about all of the films from the original trilogy of Lord of the Rings. And I have to say that, unfortunately, because we're not watching The Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
nope.
I say that, but I will probably watch The Hobbit, but you guys don't fucking have.
What do you do as your bonus?
Of the 3 Hobbit movies? Yeah, no. I mean...
Are there 3 of them? Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
Have you not seen any of them?
I've seen the first one.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
I saw the first one in theaters and it was awful and also looked really weird. And I was like, I can't take any of this.
Well, that was when they were doing True Motion, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this is horrible to look at for long.
So we're not going to be talking about The Hobbit. We'll be talking about Lord of the Rings.
Which I am excited about because I have not watched Lord of the Rings in probably a good decade.
I'm also excited about it because I finally get to sit down and watch the fucking whole movie without having to turn it off, which is literally what happens every time I watch them. It's like I'm sitting down to watch it and then I fall asleep, or Kate comes in and says, I don't want to watch this shit. She like refuses, like flat out refuses. But I'm excited to talk about it with you and Mike because I know, like you just said, not the most kind of recent watchings of the film. And you like Peter Jackson, right? So
Yeah. And Viggo Mortensen.
And Elijah Wood. And Andy Serkis.
Yes, but I like to look at Viggo Mortensen.
And Cate Blanchett's in there, too.
I like to look at her, too.
And,
oh, yeah, and Steven Tyler's daughter.
Liv Tyler, yeah. And Miranda Richardson.
Tyler? Yeah.
And
there's all kinds of people
Sean
in there.
Astin.
Oh, yeah.
Very endearing human being, Sean Astin. He just has like an endearing quality to him. But we're not talking about Lord of the Rings now. We're going to have so much to fucking talk about. I think we're going to lose our goddamn collective minds, especially when we're joined by Mike White. So we'll leave that for the end of the month. But yeah, November is going to be fantasy movies. And I should do this at the end of every month / beginning of every month so you guys aren't just wondering what the fuck we're going to be talking about. So yeah, fantasy films. So until then, where can people find you, Jess?
You can find me on Twitter at writer Jess Byard. Pretty much everything I post goes there. Everything I do goes there. And if you want to hear Chris and I talking about things that are not movie related, you can hear us on our podcast, The One Season Show, where we talk about television that lasted one season. And on our other podcast, the Scary Stories We Tell podcast, where we talk about things supernatural, true crime, all things creepy. We have some really awesome interviews over there. Check that out. And yeah, what about you, Chris?
As for me, you can find me on Twitter, casualty_Chris. You can also find me on those podcasts, Dreams for Sale, Chronicles from the Crypt, the Barney Miller podcast. There's another podcast in the oven. It's cooking. It'll be done soon. And it involves Mike White and Richard Haddam and I talking about holiday classics. What holiday classics? You'll have to listen to find out. That podcast is coming soon. As for this podcast, culturecast.com is where you can find the RSS feed with all the episodes you could ever want and more coming soon. And patreon.com/culturecast is where you can go to kick a couple dollars our way, make us watch some bad movies. I can't guarantee you Jess will be the one watching them, but I can guarantee you that
I guess if you specifically request that I watch them, then that's fine.
Right. I want you to watch this with Jess Byard. If you put that, we will do
then
that.
it will happen. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't disappoint the public.
Also, we have to sit and watch a movie and talk about it.
Oh, no.
We
do that
movies.
anyway.
I was going to say, we talk about movies all the time. Like, what do you think we talk? I mean, we do have other things we talk about, but movies a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But and that's where you can find me. And big thanks, Jess, as always, for programming the month and for joining me on the kind of way to round out the month.
Absolutely.
And we'll catch you on the next episode.